All right, we are live on the Extraordinary Sports Channel, YouTube, and podcast here with a special guest, Justin Halpern, screenwriter, sportswriter, producer, you name it. He's in the sports and comedy world in Hollywood, baby. Justin, thanks so much for joining me. How you doing this afternoon?
Good. Thank you for having me. Let me come on and talk about the Chargers a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to say, obviously, both of us from San Diego, did some research on you. I found it hilarious. We both have a Jewish father and an Italian Catholic mother. Mine is now Buddhist beliefs, but I did find that to be pretty interesting, obviously, having the combination of the same parents and being from San Diego. So if there's one guy to be able to relate to that kind of a contradiction, if you will, growing up, it would be you, Justin.
Yeah, I'm your core demo. Sure.
Absolutely. So obviously the wound is still fresh, being longtime San Diego Charger fans and now up here. First thing I want to ask is your piece you wrote for The Ringer and Bill Simmons, which was a phenomenal, spot-on article, pretty much hitting home for every Charger fan about what the experience is going to be like from them moving up here. But was that first and foremost the hardest or most emotional piece, I should say, you've ever written in the world of sports writing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was funny because when right before I wasn't going to write anything, and then Bill emailed me and was like, "Hey, do you want to place the event basically?" And I said, I thought about it. I was like, "Sure." And I wanted to pick an angle that really felt personal to me because I live in LA, but I'm a Chargers fan, and it's just like there's nothing quite like being shit on. the way you're shit on when you live in LA and you're trying to make it. And so I instantly thought about the Chargers moving here, and I think for me, it was a tough piece to write in terms of how hard it is to write something in sports, just because all of my childhood, I mean, you're from San Diego, so much of my childhood is wrapped up in the Chargers. I mean, it's it's not even just the team, it's getting together with my friends and watching the games, watching with my father, my brothers, and it's a lot of my identity is tied up in these fucking guys that go out there and play football, and specifically just the jersey, I guess, and I just think I had so much animosity towards Spanos, and I've had it for such a long time.
Right.
And it was hard. I wanted to write something that I felt would connect with Charger fans, but it didn't just feel like it was a ranty takedown of Dean Spanos, because those that were they were everywhere the day after it happened, So I just wanted to. That's why it was difficult. I think is I was trying to figure out the best way to express myself that didn't feel like it could have come from anybody.
Well, I thought it was very well written. If you don't mind, I would love to pull a quote from it, just because I thought that was one of the things that really stuck out, obviously coming to LA and working my way in the sports entertainment world. But you said Los Angeles is built on apathy. It's perfected the art of letting you know it doesn't give a fuck about you. Everyone comes here to make it because it's so hard to do that. No one has the time or the sympathy to give a shit about you. You never even get a no in LA because a no takes almost a second, and fuck you if you think you're worth that. In fact, LA gives a shit about you only once you become successful enough that the approval is no longer something you need. Beautiful words there, obviously. I wanted to relate that right to the Chargers. So, in your humble opinion, how do you think the first year the audition is going to go for the Bolts here in LA?
Well, it's funny. I think I think the real telling time will be year 2, because I could see them putting together a decent year, because they have pieces that the Rams don't have, and if they're new and they're shiny, and if they even sniff the playoffs next year, I could see things. Especially the fact that they're playing in the Step-Up Center, which seats fucking 30,000 people.
It's unbelievable.
I could see it giving off the impression that they're successful here in LA, but they're not going to be. It's going to be a bad. I have season tickets to the Clippers. I've been a Clippers fan for a long time.
Awesome.
And before they got Blake Griffin, no one gave a shit about the Clippers. Right. And it took the most one of the most electrifying players in the NBA for people to even start paying attention. And I really feel like Charger fans all the Charger fans I know are either now disinterested or actively rooting against the Chargers. And no one in LA gives a shit about them. So I think it's going to go really poorly. I could see the spin of next year being successful. And I think that's a big reason why they're playing at the StubHub Center.
Because why? There's no chance of them not selling out. What was that?
Sorry.
I was saying, sorry. I was just saying because there's no chance of them not selling out because it's just shy of 30,000 heads.
Yeah, because you'll be able to look and it's those. I think Spanos smartly saw that the Coliseum was half empty. Coliseum seats 90,000 people. It was half empty for most of the Rams game, and it's embarrassing. And Spanos has always been driven by wanting to seem like he's important.
Yeah,
and that's part of the reason why he's moving to LA is because I know he wants to fucking sit in the press box next to whoever's the star of some shitty movie and have people pretend like he wasn't just given a team by his daddy.
Well, yeah, and that's
what he dreams.
And that's what I want to, going off that point, obviously Alex Spanos was the man who started the whole movement for the Spanos family in San Diego and built the foundation for them both in real estate and for the Chargers. We've seen it before with Jim and Jerry Buss. When an offspring is handed an organization, it often does not go well, nor does it go, or it doesn't go nearly as well as it did with the initial owner. I interviewed the San Diego sign guy. I interviewed Jay Posner, the editor of the San Diego Union Tribune. Both of them agree this is something Alex Spanos probably wouldn't have done. If he did, he would have never gone about it this way. I mean, for Dean, just as a San Diego resident, I mean, could you have handled it worse? I mean, he's going from the main attraction in town to arguably 9th or 10th on the depth chart in terms of sports team importance in LA. I can't wrap my head around it.
And also just the way you're so right about the way that he went about it. There were probably other shitty owners who would have tried to take this team and move for business reasons, but it was the way that Spanos did it. Like getting Fabiani to be your spokesman, and then as if that would give some cushion between you and all the shitty things he was saying. It was just like there was such contempt for the people of San Diego throughout this whole negotiation, as if we owed them this fucking stadium to pay for it, and we were being petulant little kids and saying no. It was just crazy, and I think part of it is when you deal with, like in my business, nepotism is rampant. LA is founded on nepotism and apathy. I had a whole section about nepotism in that essay that I took out, but it's like Spanos, Dean Spanos is a kid who is used to getting what he wants, and he doesn't really, it's a cliche, but he doesn't really know what it means to have a connection to something that you had to work hard for, and I would say people always point to Chargers not selling out games. Bullshit. The Chargers were selling out games and having good attendance in years when we were 8-8, 9-7. Yeah, you put a piece of shit product on the field, or you're gonna get attendance is gonna drop in almost every city but 3 or 4. San Diego's not an amazing sports town, but it's a pretty good one, and a pretty good sports town in the 8th largest market in the United States deserves to have a fucking NFL team and can support one. And now you're going to what is quote unquote the 2nd largest market in the United States, full of people who aren't from here, who have a million other things to do and a million other teams to root for. The reason USC is successful is because they've built a culture over the last 70 years in LA, and being a USC fan means something. There's a cachet to it. There's a coolness to it. Same with the Lakers. You're part of a group. You're part of a club. It has a social standing. And if you don't bring a social standing to your sports teams in LA, then you can fuck off.
That's spot on. Again, we're here with Justin Halpern, author, screenwriter, sports writer, producer, the list goes on. So Justin, obviously I want to touch again on your article and your metaphor. You don't have to go too personal with it, but obviously let's take it back to when you first moved to LA and were making a name for yourself. Can you parlay that with any kind of experience the Chargers are going to experience here in their first year, as when you did when you first came to La La Land?
Like
5-11.
I think it'd be disastrous for that franchise to start the way the Rams have started. And the Rams, you know, you saw it. People were bailing halfway through the year, and they had at least some kind of fan base here. And so I think that the Chargers will need to do kind of like, you know, sort of a famous thing is like, you in my business, like, you don't want to be the one calling out. You want the calls to come in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want to have done something where people are asking to see you versus you trying to bang down the door and call them.
Right.
And I think the only chance they have is to come out next year, go something like 11-5, and make the, you know, NFC champion or AFC championship game or something like that. And then maybe they have a shot to start to build a small fan base of fair weather fans that will come to games here. Otherwise, they're going to have a rude fucking awakening. And I mean, honestly, it sucks to say this because I know a lot of my friends are still Chargers fans, or at least they're kind of on the fence.
Right.
But I'm rooting for them to fail.
There it is. There it is. The opposite of the summer of George. Well, so we're looking at, obviously, at a city, like you just alluded to, the 8th biggest sports market. It's an unbelievable city. Where do you think this leaves our city we grew up in at the moment and moving forward, just as a city as a whole, and then also our involvement potentially in the NFL moving forward in years to come?
Well, it's interesting because I feel like Roger Goodell and the NFL really wanted the NFL to stay in San Diego. I think they wanted to diversify their markets. I think they felt like the Chargers had built at least something that was sustainable,
right,
and a viable product in San Diego. And I think Goodell really wanted them, for as much of a piece of shit as Goodell is. I think he wanted them to stay in San Diego. So I think the idea that we may at some point down the road be, you know, revisit having a team there is a possibility. But I think, you know, I think the fans in San Diego are burned. I think that they really are hurt by it. And I think that it's sort of, it might be irreparable harm, at least with this generation. I think maybe it'll take that much longer. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it also, the NFL's in a weird place right now where the game is sort of being shown for how dangerous and violent it really is. And
right, people
are struggling with the, you know, some of the personalities of the people on some of the teams, and I think it's in a tough place. I wouldn't want to be a brand new NFL team in a market that had just been burned. I think that's tough. So I don't know. And I think for San Diego, my friend put it really well. He's like, I felt like like I had a really good friend that left. You know, there'll always be like a hole there. But ultimately, I think people of San Diego are going to move on. You know, it's like San Diego has so much to offer in terms of just, you know, quality of life that I really do think that people are going to, you know, a couple years from now, 3 years from now, I don't know that people will give a shit about reinvesting into another NFL team.
Yeah, well, it's just like in comedy, such as life, timing is everything. You know, had Dean done this maybe in 2 years, if you were to do it when the stadium was brand new rather than being a tenant at StubHub, do you think maybe something would have worked out in San Diego? Or, I mean, I know we're kind of talking about a book that's already been closed, but it's hard for me. I'm talking out loud to a fellow. I mean, again, I feel like, you know, like it's a longtime friend, but it's also like a girlfriend that went from in a relationship to single on Facebook overnight. I still don't know what to make of it, but I mean, do you think this would have played out differently had he had a little more patience?
No, and here's why. He's not wealthy enough to own an NFL football team. Dean Spanos should not be owning an NFL football team. He can't afford it.
Do you think the owners then do you think they'll vote him out? I believe there's some sort of clause, right? You can overwhelmingly, with over 2/3 or something along those lines, you can start the ball rolling with getting an owner out owning a team, or I'm not sure if I heard that correctly.
I don't think that'll ever happen because I think super, super rich dudes are always looking out for other super, super rich dudes, and I don't think they ever want to set a precedent that someone's team could be taken out from under them. I know it happened with Donald Sterling, and I was here for that.
Right.
But he was put in it, like Donald Sterling put the NBA in an impossible position, and they had no other choice. And I still think most of them behind closed doors would have voted to keep Donald Sterling as an owner. So
Wow.
I don't think it'll ever happen with Spanos getting voted out. I just think the guy can't afford. You should be able to own it. It's like, you know, you shouldn't be allowed to buy a house if you can't make the payments and take care of it when it's getting fucked up. You know, like you have to go through a process, right? We all have to go get loans, and you have to qualify for it. We saw what happens when you start giving out loans and you can't afford it. Things crash. So I think you shouldn't be able to own a team if you can't afford to also buy a fucking stadium. And if you can't build your own fucking stadium, then fuck you. You don't deserve a team. Yeah.
On a lighter note, favorite Charger moment in both the Q and also as Jack Murphy Stadium, as you know it?
Probably the Natron Means playoff 65-yard touchdown run.
Wow, let's go. All right.
That was a great one. That one was like so loud you could, like I was watching at home and you could hear them try to adjust the volume as it was happening. That was a great one. I mean, in terms of all-time moments, it didn't happen at the Q, but the Lou Bush SWAT down, obviously, and amazing because we weren't even supposed to win that game. I mean, nobody thought we would.
Yeah.
And then just like, I mean, there's so many like Ladanian moments that
so many
I remember. Like just the specific ones too. Like a touchdown run he had against the Jets where he like broke wide to the right, and there was two defensive. There was a defensive back who was like there in the open field, and he just like made a little shuffle step, and the guy just dove in the air, and he walked right in the end zone. Like there's just so many good moments like that.
Well, at least Gates got that record last home game. That was huge. Just a little.
I know. I love Gates. Gates is all timer. He's like probably one. Him and LT are probably my two favorite Chargers.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Again, it's just, I'm talking out loud, but it's a tough pill to swallow, man. I mean, the whole thing seems wrong. No one was for it except one man. It's amazing how one man, well, we're seeing it on a larger scale with the president, but one man's decision affects an entire city, literally an entire city.
No, it's totally true. And you see, like, you know, when somebody has that much money that they can, you know, it's funny because Spanos has a ton of money, so he can make these decisions, but he doesn't have quite enough money to be somebody who can.
Just like, dude, wrong place to come try and stick your chest out and play the alpha egotistical game, bud. But you know, you got to live it to, I guess, fully experience that for yourself. Because in his head, like you said, he's probably going to think he's going to be having Nicholas and all those guys. No one's coming to the StubHub Center, bud. No one's coming. It's not going to happen.
No.
Anyway,
I want to say I am like really proud of San Diego for.
Yeah, I mean, everyone thinks we don't have passion. Sorry, there's some heated individuals out there, including myself. I'm salty. I'm real salty. I may take to Hollywood Boulevard and ask some questions, have some trivia questions to fans, see how little they really know about the team. See, even if they know who number 21 is back from back in the OOs. But anyways, Justin, I know you're busy.
You won't find a Charger fan out here.
I know. I made the joke. There's 3 sweatshirts out here I've seen in a couple of years of living here, and I own 2 of them. So, you know, it is what it is. But, I know you're busy. A couple questions just because you're very, very successful both in the comedy world and the sports world, and, having you is a real treat. And so, obviously, for you, a journey as is life, but also in the industry, it's an interesting one. Would you say that each work and or life experience for yourself in the entertainment industry was necessary in contributing to both the person you are today and the writer you are today?
That's at least what I tell myself. so they don't feel like completely wasted years. I mean, I spent a lot of years waiting tables and trying to make it out here, but yeah, I mean, it all. I chalk it all up to life experience, and definitely it gives you, it's the same as what you do. It's like you're looking for what's your point of view, what's your voice, how's it different from everyone else's, and I think those are the things that help make it.
Absolutely. Have you ever spent any time comparing sports and comedy? I know I was referencing timing. obviously, whether it's a quarterback and wide receiver, a point guard and center, and on stage doing stand-up, timing and delivery is crucial. Have you ever dove into just kind of looking at the similarities between the two crafts?
Definitely with basketball, because we have season tickets to the Clippers, and we go to a lot of games, and it's like an ensemble that needs to work together around a star, and it's like it's very basketball. Basketball, I think, is really, really similar to almost like how a show works. Yeah, I think it's pretty similar.
Yeah. Hey, in all your Clipper games, did you ever say what up to James Goldstein? I had a chance to interview him and go up to his how I played real talk, Justin. I played him in tennis. He has a court, and I threw out my back 3 days before. I probably just doing something. I don't know. Anyways, I roll in. It was like playing older Jewish relative of mine who was not happy with my game. Like the commentary in that is just. I was just like, oh my, and I'm the one wearing the back brace. Yeah, played at his house. Sheets Goldstein residence,
baby. What's his house like?
Oh my gosh, there was the NBA was there filming a package for All-Star Weekend. There was a naked woman doing a photo shoot at the pool, and then you had me schwitzing like a Hebrew on a high holiday on the top court, trying to just barely make it over. I pretty much played like Milos from Seinfeld, if you know the reference. And he had he even say the comments. I mean, the guy's all time. He wanted a Greenblatt's turkey sandwich, nothing on it. He just got done playing. He sat down on his newspaper. He's like the real most interesting man in the world. So I don't know if you've ever talked to him, but he's a riot. That could be. No,
he sits on the other side from me.
Oh, okay.
So but I see him there very often, and he is definitely like a fixture at NBA games.
He is. Definitely. One more question for you, and then I'll let you go. Obviously, artists and athletes alike talk about getting in the zone or the flow, you could call it, whatever word you choose. Do you have any sort of creative process you stick to, whether you're getting ready to write a sports piece or a comedic piece, in terms of getting yourself in that good feeling vibration?
I'm sort of someone who needs to have like an outline before I really go start writing something. So even with that piece I did for The Ringer, I tried to like kind of like think of an angle and then put down like sort of the big beats of what I wanted to say. And after I do that, then I can kind of get into a rhythm and it'll flow pretty nicely if it's a decent piece. But I always hear some people say like, I just sit down and it comes out of me, and I'm just not one of those people. So it's a little sweatier for
me. There you go. Hey, do you have any predictions for where the sports world is going in the next 5 to 10 years from a media standpoint? Obviously, we're seeing more discord than ever. We just saw the Charles Barkley, LeBron blow up. Athletes are getting tired of the media and more, but you got things like the Players Tribune and good online publications like The Ringer as well. Do you see those types of online mediums changing the game moving forward? Any predictions for you in this world in the next few years?
I don't know. It's hard to say because in one sense, coverage of games feels like it's democratized in that like anybody can watch a game and then write something up. But there are fewer and fewer people who have actual information, so that's being kind of consolidated. You have like in basketball, you have like Wojnarowski, and in football, you have like Adam Schefter, and you have but there's less and less people who get the scoop. So I'm not really sure. I don't know which way it's going. I think there are some sports going the right way and some that are going in the wrong direction. But yeah. But I think specifically the NBA is definitely going in the right direction. I think if they can figure out, I wouldn't be surprised to see the NBA firmly as the second most popular sport in the country in a few years in terms of money and ratings.
Yeah.
And then potentially overtake football in 10 years just because of, unless football's got some shit to figure out.
Agreed. Well, Justin, I so appreciate the time. And obviously you have a hit comedy series coming out, Powerless on NBC, starring Vanessa Hudgens. What a log line, a company owned by Bruce Wayne's less charismatic cousin in Gotham City's dinky neighboring Hoboken Charm City. That's a pretty. I saw the trailer. It looks very exciting and very fresh. Congratulations. That tips off on.
Well, I hope people like it.
Absolutely. And again, Justin Halpern on Twitter at Justin_Halpern, Halpern. Appreciate the time, Justin. Thank you so much, and continued success.
No problem. Thank you, man.
All right. Take care. And that's another edition of the Extraordinary Sports YouTube channel. Thank you.